Hey, on this Sedity Wednesday, I hope everybody's doing good. I am coming on to briefly talk about people who have been traumatized that haven't gotten over it yet. One of the things I was talking about with a family member, my aunt, Joe, we were talking and I talked to her sometime last year briefly, and she was saying she was going to this spa retreat in a certain part of Mississippi where we live. So I just happened to ask her about it this past weekend. And I said, hey, Joe, did you go on your trip with your friend? I said, did you go on your trip? And she was like, yeah. I said, did you go on your trip with your friend? She was like, no, I decided I went by myself because I didn't want to deal with people and their issues and this, that, and the third. And I was like, I get that. And she was like, everybody goes through something and people experience things when they're young. And I was like, yeah, that's true. And she said, but you, at some point, you can't. She said, your parents did what they did, and you understand it. She's like, but, you have to go on and live and et cetera, et cetera. And I said, exactly. And I said, at a certain point, you can't not just blame your parents, but at what point do you break this cycle? Do you break the chain of that generational curse that's going on? And we went on to talk briefly about, and I said, what I come to realize is our parents did what they did, the best that they knew how, because it was the best or the level that they had an understanding sometimes. Parents do not understand. Some parents think the best they can do for you is provide a place for you to stay, give you food, clothing, and shelter. They do not provide emotional, mental, other forms of support for you. Some parents don't think that. Some parents think, well, I just brought you here, that's good enough. And sadly, those people do not also gather in concept that how they bring their children up is not always the best way, and they were just making their way. And we as children have to also realize our parents are stuck there. They will not ever get to a position where they have a inkling of understanding or offer an apology for how we grew up or circumstances that we ended up being in because of the decisions that they made. And she was like, you know what, you're right. And I was like, yeah, and a lot of it has to do with it. My father died several years ago in 2021. And, I think I said on here before, I thought that because he had a house of children that they lived a better life than I did because I didn't grow with my dad and my mama was a single parent. Well, come to find out, it wasn't roses like I thought it was. One of my sisters by my dad mentioned on her internet page about how she felt like she developed a mental condition because of how she grew up with him. And to this day, she still has this disdain for me and for him about getting children outside of his marriage. Excuse me. And the things that he did, he was at some point he did drink alcohol. And she said that he would come home and their parents, my dad and his wife, would get into an argument because he was out on the streets being with my mama or whoever else he was with, because my mama wasn't the only person he was seeing outside of his marriage. And I thought to myself, some people are holding on to trauma that they experienced, and they'll never get an apology for it. I'm not sure what happened to him between the two of them before he passed away, but I don't really think that there was an apology from him based on how he treated her. And there were more things that she said in the post years before he passed away, but I honestly don't think that she ever got an apology from him based on how he treated her, she said. So we have to also come to that realization that our parents not so much lack education, but a lack of wisdom on how things that they done, or even myself as a parent, my kids will say stuff to me and I'd be like, oh, I don't know, I don't remember doing it, but I'll still apologize to them, because even if I didn't remember it, I'm not down that it happened to them, or I said it to them years ago when they were younger and they never forgot about it, because if they brought it up now, they're young adults, it evidently affected them. So I'm apologizing for it, or hurting their feelings, or doing something that probably wasn't in my best interest, but I was a different parent at that time than I am now. Like I said, the fact that you have to use wisdom and some understanding of how things transpire between you and your children And if you are open-minded like I am, when you get older, you apologize for things. You realize the error of your ways, and that may not have been the best decision, or, you know, thing for you to do to your child or towards your child at that moment in time. But at the time, it might have felt right as a parent to do. So anyway, that's what I wanted to come on and explain or discuss with you briefly, that holding on to trauma is not going to help you, because sometimes the apology that you want to get, you will not get. And even if you got it, it's still up to you to be able to process the emotions that you experienced during that traumatic time, in order for you to stop carrying that trauma from situation to situation or relationship to relationship. So anyways, I hope y'all have a good day, and I hope I've enlightened somebody. Talk to you later.